fun for the neutral. I'd imagine Liverpool fans, though, are pulling their hair out. Graham Souness, certainly.
Great.
Certainly you were. How did they conspire 3-0 up at half-time for that game to finish 3-3?
Well, no, when you think Liverpool 3-0 up at half-time, 2 of the goals they got in the first half were from set pieces. I felt this was going to be a really difficult night for them. But they got a bit of luck early on with those 2 set pieces. Seville players going to sleep, and you think at 3-0 at half-time, just be solid, don't do anything daft early on, don't get anyone sent off, and you end up getting chance after chance because Seville will come on to you. Liverpool didn't get started in the second half, and they've got away with it. You can see the emotions there of the 2 teams. You've got one team that feels like they've lost badly, Liverpool, and Sevilla come back from the dead and get something from that game, which is never. Top teams don't lose 3-goal advantages. Not normally. It does happen very, very rarely, but no. You mentioned before the game Liverpool now have turned the corner. They're not conceding goals. I highlighted it was Huddersfield, Maribor, West Ham and Southampton. And that's how it panned out. But they're still not any better defensively.
And this goal says it all, Neil, doesn't it?
Yeah, I mean, there's 5 zonal on the 6-yard line, 4 too many. Pizarro's free. It's a knockdown from a set play, and they don't get out quick enough to block up. It is the last kick of the game. Just see it out. I'll give you one name. The reason why Liverpool have thrown this away, Moreno. It's just, Graham highlighted him at half-time. And I even said you guys...
Start of the game.
What about the manager who kept faith with him?
Well, I mean, he has to look at himself as well. Although I don't want to be too critical of the manager, but maybe his substitutions should have been earlier because we talked about the Fab Four. After Sevilla got the early goal in the second half, maybe should have made the change earlier. The other point I wanted to make was that, at 3-0 up, you should be seeing games out at that level. And it's a rollercoaster ride for Liverpool fans at the minute.
Table, Spartak and Maribor finished 1-1. We'll show you those goals later in the final round matches in a fortnight's time. Liverpool will need a point at Spartak to reach the last 16. Sevilla will join them if they beat Maribor. But Liverpool, as I said, Graham, were seconds away from securing their place in the last 16. Neil said it was down to one man, Moreno. Is that fair?
No, and yes. I mean, we highlighted him before a ball was kicked. It's as if he doesn't really understand the position. I mean, that was an incident where he's got sucked right into the middle of the pitch unnecessarily. Here he gives a foul away unnecessarily. And from the free kick, that's just clumsy. He's faced away from the goal. And then here, at no time does he look over his right shoulder to see where the danger's coming from. Guy gets in front of him. Once that happens, as we saw in the first half, a near post header, anything can happen. And this time, again, bad control. Dangles a leg. It was a penalty. But even if he doesn't catch him, you don't give people an opportunity to go down inside your box by dangling a leg. So, he frustrates the life out of me, Moreno, because I don't see him as a Liverpool player. I think he's an accident waiting to happen.
He was heading sort of into the wilderness at Liverpool. Certainly last season, I think he only made 8 appearances, but he's come back in this season. Klopp has spoken about how he's never seen a turnaround in a player like this. He's now a much better defender. He's a brilliant footballer. I mean, Klopp has invested a lot in bringing this guy back into the team.
Well, I don't see it. And then they spent 12 million on Andrew Robertson from, was it Hull? Doesn't get a look in. He's another attacking fullback, in the mould of Moreno, but defensively, his positional sense, his defensive discipline, is not there, and at that level, he gets exposed time and time again. For me, he's at fault for the first 2 goals, which gives Sevilla the lifeline when the game is dead and buried at 3-0. Unnecessary free kick, doesn't do his job when the ball comes in, then gives a penalty away. And in the end, Klopp makes a change at 3-2, brings on Milner. It looked like Liverpool were going to see it out, but they couldn't. They couldn't defend the set player properly. But I said to you guys off camera, what would you give me for 3-3 at half-time? I was joking, because Liverpool were so far ahead. But
apparently it was 35-1.
But you're just thinking, with this Liverpool team, do they have the nous, the streetways, Graham, at this level at the minute? They just seem to be
more than just Moreno
pressure.
Then, Graham. More than just Moreno.
Of course it's more than just Moreno.
Just stick with Moreno for
he
a
was a
minute.
catalyst for the 2 goals.
What did he give them going forward that James Milner wouldn't have done tonight? What did Moreno do going forward that James Milner wouldn't have given them? I mean, I come back to it. You're going away from home. This team have not been beaten at home for a year now. So you know that sometime during 90 minutes you're going to come under the cosh. They must know. They had him, Moreno. They know he can't defend. Let's expose him.
Yeah.
It was a ticking time bomb. He was always going to make a mistake.
Do you have huge questions about Klopp's judgment of a player then when he, as I said, invests so much in bringing this player back?
Well, he works with them every day. You know, he sees something that maybe most people don't.
You showed a lot of faith in him.
He's shown a great deal of faith. I come back to, I'd like to say to Klopp, if ever I got the opportunity, you know, in big away games, why do you have to feel you have to win it so early on? I see him as a player you would bring on if you were chasing the game. But start solid, because the minute you're giving goals away, they got away with it tonight because they got the goals first up. But it wasn't anything to do with Moreno. But, you know, normally away from home, you start solid, see how the game pans out. If you go behind, then you get more adventurous players onto the pitch. But he starts with the most adventurous team he can put on the pitch in big games away from home. I'd like to ask him the question how, because this Liverpool team ain't good enough to do that against the very best teams. Go and take them on in a goal fest. And
they still were 3-2 up when he gave Moreno the hook. Neil, he steadied things up. He brought Milner on, he brought Can on. Yet Sevilla still had chances, and eventually, 93 minutes, they get the goal.
Well, the momentum was with Sevilla, and they were pressing. You know, this is some of the chances that they had. Pizarro, back post. They just went for it, Sevilla. And to be fair, they defended a lot better, even though Liverpool had a couple of decent chances on the counter-attack. This was a 3-2. It's a fantastic save from Karius, and in the end, it's given the offside. But Liverpool were ragged at this stage. You know, with the 2 goals back in the game, there's only one in it. This is so unlucky. Vasquez made a huge difference coming on for Sevilla. Banega started picking the passes in between the lines. And this is, you know, the last kick of the game. Your centre-half has to head that clear. Clavin, not dominant enough. Look, it's sort of a half-header into an area where there's no Liverpool player. He's even got time to take a touch and volley it in. It is really, really poor. I do have an enormous amount of sympathy for Klopp, you know, tonight, because sometimes there's things that are out of your control, and that feels like a defeat for Liverpool tonight.
That's a good point to pick up there, Graham. Is that a really damaging night for Liverpool's morale, despite the fact it's a way point and such a hard place to go?
Yeah, they will feel, listen, he will try and promote it. Well, look, we came here, we got a result. We didn't get beat. But when you're 3-0 up away from home, and you give up the 3 goals in that manner, it isn't good. Try to look beyond tonight. You know, if you're going to win big trophies, you have to be able to keep the ball better than they did tonight when they were 3-0 up. Just keep the ball. Don't have to win don't have to score another goal. Just keep the ball and don't give up chances like they did tonight.
Final round of matches in a fortnight's time. Liverpool will need a point at home to Spartak to reach the last 16. Sevilla will join them if they beat Maribor. Graham, you described this game tonight against Sevilla as a real test for this Liverpool team. What conclusions have you drawn by Klopp and his side?
Good question, Tommy. I'm not sure. You know, we saw them at their best and at their worst. You know, first half, with the aid of some poor defending, they find themselves 2-0 up. In the second half, which would be more concerning for me, you know, you're 3-0 up away from home, just see the game out. Don't need to score another goal. And they didn't keep the ball well enough. You know, when they came under a bit of pressure, they kept giving the ball time and time again back to Seville. And if you're going to do well in this competition against the best teams, you've got to be able to keep the ball better than they did in that second half.
Can you win trophies playing the way they do?
No, of course, not at that level. And he did talk about them improving defensively. Well, there wasn't much evidence of that tonight. You know, Sevilla could have had at least 2 in the first half, and they bombarded Liverpool in the second half. And he didn't change until too late, you know, until they got the second goal. Then he brings on Can, and Milner becomes a little bit more pragmatic. But the momentum had already shifted to Sevilla, so he needs to look at himself on tonight's performance after being 3-0 up at half-time.
Quick word from Jurgen Klopp. He's been bigging